Hi you guys. So, Huples cat, my friend from the far north, has been doing some videos on drought, and he asked me to review some of my systems.
Oh, thanks Martha. I'm going to heavily use this video and interject. My first interjection is going to be about the rain barrel she's showing.
With him and you guys. Just as a high-level overview, I'll see how weedy I get. So he just wanted me to touch on a few things and a few different things we've been doing in preparation for the water drought.
This is my neighbour's rain barrel. This is ours. These cost several $100s. They're actually designed to be frozen. Most rain barrels, like the green one I just showed you, are not. Martha's looks very much like an all year round rain barrel. Worth it if you can afford it.
I have some water catchment systems. You can see this is one that comes from my roof. We have 3 of these 55-gallon barrels. They come into the barrel, and then I've got a spigot down here. Water comes out of. So we've got these throughout the property. Really useful for watering plants and things like that. However, we have a composite roof, just a regular shingle roof. That's something people don't really talk about, is if you have one of those kinds of roofs, you really shouldn't be drinking that water. I'd put it through the Berkey and drink it, but you have to be careful about what you do with it. Not only is the water itself, it's gone over this asphalt shingle system with the tar and potential carcinogens, but there's also bird crap up there and other animal crap, and so you really need to think, wow, that's rainwater, that's awesome, but it's not just rainwater that's in these barrels. There's other stuff. Unless you're capturing water like literally from the sky as it falls, then you got to worry about that.
It's next to impossible to find out anything definite online about this, but the consensus of the opinions are have a metal roof. For multiple reasons. If it's going to be a drought, a metal roof can actually not catch fire if embers drop on it. But on top of that, there is a severe risk of long-term drinking and cooking with rainwater catchment from asphalt roofs and ingestion of different types of petrochemicals, which in the long haul aren't going to be that good for you.
One of our other backups, we've got a above ground pool. It's our redneck swimming pool. It's 10,000 gallons, which is almost 38,000 liters. It was a saltwater pool. We preferred that for our skin. However, we have just recently switched it to the chlorine-bromine base. The reason for that is that we can make this water potable.
A great example of mitigation before you have to act there, making chlorine from salt water. There's a lot of reasons why a saltwater pool is much better for the environment and for you, but in a condition of going into the summer of drought conditions, it is actually smart to think, maybe this year I'll use a chlorine pool. And that's what Martha's done, and that's great. Brad from Full Spectrum Survival also has an above ground pool. Quite a few people have been getting them recently. I think Dad on YouTube had one, but I'm not sure if it worked or not. Anyway, what I recommend is when they're on sale in the fall and winter, buy a whole bunch of little kiddie pools and inflate them, put them on a flat area or on the garden or wherever, and weigh them down very carefully with bricks and collect water that way. You will have to treat that at least a couple of times before you drink it, but in terms of agriculture, you can just use it as it is, and you can actually gather a ton of water that way. And if you don't have a lot of horizontal space, consider kiddie pools with tarp systems around them to catch the water and amplify the water inside of the kiddie pool. But have a method of draining the kiddie pool that uses gravity rather than just bucket and lift and move. If you can do it on height and then put pipes in, suck the air out of the pipe and then let gravity flow, it's actually going to be a lot better for you in the long term. Again, it's going to really depend on where you live, how safe it is, and what your local conditions are.
If it's salt water, I don't even know if going through a Berkey would help. But
can sea salt filter through my Berkey water purification system? I always wondered what would happen if a national emergency occurred while my family was at the beach. The answer, straight up, is no. The concentration of salt in seawater will more than likely ruin the elements fairly quickly. The manufacturer doesn't even recommend filtering water from a softener system, which also contains salts that will likely ruin the system.
We've changed it, so if a situation came where we needed to start using this water for watering plants, etc., we would immediately stop using it for swimming, and we would consult the FEMA guides on using pool shock for decontamination of large quantities of water.
One of the things I noticed that Bread on Full Spectrum Survival had one of the cheaper material coverings for the pool, and I'm not sure what Martha has.
If you use 1 gallon per person per day, I have 8,000 days of water there.
Wherever possible, try and get a wood slat covering. The stronger and thicker the covering of the above ground pool, the more the water's going to drip back into it, especially at night. If you have a permeable cloth over it, and a lot of cloths are permeable, you're actually going to get quite a bit of evaporation, especially if it's dry.
It's 111 degrees today. That's a dog who knows where to lay. On the back side of my big garden now, and this is our well house, so that's where our mechanics and the water softening system and everything is. But this is the cap that goes over our well. This is a simple pump. We had this installed several years ago, well, when we moved in 8-10 years ago, and that way if the power goes out I can hand pump this, which I've done before. So this well, we have a deep well. If we took this cap off, we could measure how much water is in here, and I think I'm going to figure out a way to do that, because if we're going into a drought, I want to know how much water I'm going to have in my well. A really easy way to do that is to take this cap off, put a string with a bob on the end of it, some weight, go down, see when it gets wet, pull the string back out and measure that distance. My static water starts at around 200 feet. My well starts water intake at 425 feet. That means that when this well was installed, the static water was at 200 feet. And where the water comes in is 425, so 225 feet of aquifer water down there. Is it still that deep? Well, the well is, but how shallow or how deep is the static water? We've got an underground river that runs here, which is awesome.
Again, local conditions are going to dictate what you want to do. If you are able to put a well in, put a well in. If you're able to measure the well and do all the things Martha's suggesting, do so. I wanted a hand pump in the kitchen of the Shire. That never happened because of the builder being there. But at the end of the day, I'm not really that keen on figuring out how much water I have in my well. I have a lot of water in the well. It's a very deep well, and I have literal springs bubbling up very close to the well on the property. That would imply to me that I don't have to worry too much. When you don't have any groundwater, when you don't have springs coming up naturally, you literally, like Martha says, have no idea how much water is in the well till it runs out.
We have neighbors. We got a dairy over there, and we're upstream of them. So they're getting what is, what we don't take up is going over to them. So we have to be careful about that. But we have other neighbors around, so we need to be thoughtful about our water use, which is one of the other reasons I wanted to talk about our septic. Not only do we have septic, we've got a drain field, which means the water that we use inside the house, when we're done using it, it goes through the septic and then into the drain field. So it goes back into the earth. It doesn't go to a water treatment center plant anywhere. It goes back to the earth.
It is in effect a grey water system. Her used water, instead of going out and about and being dumped in the sea or going to a municipal treatment plant, goes onto the clay ceramic tiles in the ground, separates itself out, gets purified as it moves, and then actually is going into her garden. And that's actually a great thing to do. Be aware of the fact that if people have E. coli and dysentery and cholera, those plants will then have that on them from grey water systems, septic systems such as this. Obviously, if you don't have cholera and you're eating your own discarded grey water, you're probably pretty safe. If you're moving out and about scavenging and foraging in abandoned gardens, be aware of the fact a lot of rural properties have septic systems. The people in those systems, before they left or they died, might have had dysentery, cholera, a whole bunch of different diseases that can actually go through the weeping tiles and actually infect the plants. Be very cautious about not catching infectious diseases in any sort of grid down.
So if you saw the video we did when the power was out, you noticed that we have quite a few of these containers. We have about 10.
There's some water. Up there in that box is actually just loaded with water jugs.
Of them actually between 2.5, 6 gallon. This is a 5 gallon cube. These are 8 gallons. So I've got, I think, 6 more of these. We have them out in the RV right now. However, we keep these on hand, and they're full. All full. That most of the time we try to keep them full, just in case we needed them, like we needed them over the winter time.
If you're adding in chlorinated municipal water to this type of a system, every 6 months or so, dump the water out, use it on your garden, and then replenish it from the taps. If you're very concerned about things, you can always add bleach into the water for a little while to really sterilize the inside of it, and then clean it out thoroughly, and then use the municipal water. I don't really have a huge issue with this. I have a lot of chlorinated water, which is one of the reasons I use the Berkey system.
I don't think I've ever actually shown you guys one of my stock rooms before. But this is something super easy. These are 2 liters of soda pop containers, right? I have 70 of them. So it's 140 liters of extra fluid. Every time I drink one, I fill it up with water, and I have them spread throughout this whole room, in addition to lots of my other foodstuffs, but I won't show the whole room off. But you understand what I mean. Easy. Drink it, fill it, put it somewhere. Put it under your bed. Put it in the closet. Put it anywhere, and you'll have it. We used these a lot when the power went out because it's so lightweight and just so easy to handle. Washing your face, brushing your teeth, you know, washing some dishes. If you didn't want to lug around one of those big, like the 5-gallon container, it's 40 pounds. This is half a gallon, so what is that? 4 pounds. So super easy and light. So something you should think about doing.
Well, that's it for this video. I'm going to actually just finish up with a very short segment showing my summer garden this year. And I'd like to thank Martha for that. And we will be back with part 2, where Martha shows the toilet system and explains it. And also one of the most interesting bathing systems I've ever seen. So stick around for part 2 of Old School Prepper and Huples Cat. Agreed. Toodles. Well, if he's enjoying the garden, I'll do a quick garden tour video because, well, why not? It's July. It did rain the last couple of days, and it's actually going to get cold again, but we do have a heat advisory today, so it's looking a lot better in terms of green. As you can see, the black walnut tree is getting ready for a super drop year, which will help the squirrels because they almost died off last year. Some little flowers coming back, little terrier. These have done outstandingly well. I'm quite happy with them. I've planted them about 4 or 5 times in the past in different areas and never really took in, but they have. Gladiolus had about a week of excitement and now I've gone. Painted these for the sale. They didn't do anything with this. Actually have lilies growing in here, and we did put some marigolds on there, but they haven't done great. Beware leaves of green. That is actually a red trillium. We actually have worms and all. Tribute to our mini terriers. They've come right back to life, and again we have to continually weed this patch. It's really important that you do that. The non-spreading sumac is spreading. Now, this is going to excite people. This is my vegetable garden this year. Like I say, I bought these from small plants because I've never had any good with peppers from seed. This one's struggling a bit, but it's got peppers on it. Spinach, weeds, kale, Swiss chard. Swiss chard took about 5 years to establish, but it's now established and is doing well. I have no idea what this stuff is. We planted this ages ago and it spreads like a viral weed. What the heck is it? Anybody got any ideas? Kale, of course. Now this is Kitty's. I don't know what she thought she was doing this year. She's made no attempt to thin. Her weeding's terrible. And she's got this mad plan for this to go, I believe it's cilantro, to go to seed like it usually does, and she wants to collect it. And I keep asking her, what do you want all this amount of seed for? Because there's going to be a lot. She won't tell me. But yeah, Kitty didn't do a great job this year, but we'll let her off. About 3 years ago, I planted a pear tree. and it's actually gonna, had one little pear last year that disappeared. This year I think they're gonna get a bumper crop. I'm into heirloom and organics, but I did buy a pear tree that's 4 different types of pear tree grafted onto a stem, so there's 4 types of pear under the grounds that disease resistance is going to be different for the different 4 types of pear, giving you more chance of them surviving. But yeah, we're going to get a mega crop of pears, I think. Oh, here he comes. Is it Wolfie? This has been Tired Terrier Production 2021.